It's Wednesday morning edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, boxing, they have it all. So go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off regular price and sales priced items. That's the number one. STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live on a beautiful Wednesday morning here in Toronto. Good to be back. Before we do introductions, before we talk about the game last night, the game tonight, all of that, Andre, big props to you, man. Thank you for carrying the show yesterday. Appreciate you. Last minute, some things came up and we weren't able to do the show all together, but Andre did his thing and was the only one who got his best bet right. So, I mean, all in all, yesterday was just coming up, Andre. And with that, at the bottom of your screen, you read his work on Give Me Sport. You read his gambling picks on Winners and Whiners. Andre, thank you again and good morning.
Good morning. You know, I wish the bet that had come right was Rangers winning, but it's fine. We can't all be right. Shout out to Angel Hernandez, who was never right and is now retired.
Never right. Dude, the amount, you go on Twitter, bro, the amount of Angel Hernandez greatest calls, it's hilarious. I could spend all day just scrolling through his calls. It's legit. Some of those strike calls are a foot off the plate. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So great drop by you. And at the top of your screen, right next to me, you read his work on the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, good morning, man. How you feeling on a Wednesday?
Good morning, and I'll give Andre his due as well. Yesterday was pretty much the day of Andre.
Yeah.
Shout out for covering us and for carrying the best bet segment as well. And also that Angel Hernandez draft just put me in a good mood today. I'm ready to get at it.
May 28th is officially the day of Andre on Pucks Across Borders. For years to come, we will remember May 28th. We will honor it, and we will salute you on that day, Andre, moving forward. May 28th for the rest of Pucks Across Borders history. So listen, big game last night. Of course, Andre, your guys lose in overtime to the Florida Panthers, who tie the series up at 2. I didn't get to say this yesterday, but the Oilers could be down 3-1 today. Even if the Panthers went down 3-0 or 3-1, I am way more concerned about the Oilers than I would have been about the Panthers if the Panthers went down 3-1. I think even if the Rangers win the series, I think if the Panthers went down 3-1, that series could still go 7 games. Feels like every game has been kind of a coin flip, where this game that we're going to talk about in a little bit tonight, the Oilers are kind of lucky to have one game. And even though there are moments of every game where the Oilers have dominated, the Stars are just seems to be too much, and we're going to talk about that moving forward. But before we get into all of that, I have some fun. I have a fun question to ask you guys that I want to get off my chest here. So on Monday, and depending what happens, we may or may not have a show. We'll see kind of how. Actually, today's Wednesday. Yeah, we'll probably have a show on Monday, but either way, I will not be here. I have my very first play-by-play opportunity. I'm calling some high school lacrosse on Monday, and I'm super excited about it. But I am going to be on local TV. It's nothing crazy, no national business, just some local TV that nobody probably watches. But guys, I need to ask you a question. You have tomorrow, you have like 3-4 days to come up with a phrase that should probably seem impossible to get in during a lacrosse play-by-play game. And I need you guys, even the viewers, if you want to tweet us, comment on YouTube, whatever, I need to come up with a weird, obscure, family-friendly quote to sneak in to show some love to Pucks Across Borders on Monday. I've been trying to think all week, what can I say to represent the show? I want to figure it out. So that's your homework over the next 4 days. Come up with something weird, and I'll see what I can do on Monday.
Dead
All right,
cat
moving
bounce.
on.
I'm not going to dead cat bounce live
Oh,
on air.
dead cat bounce. I'll do my research if any of the high school coaches have been fired recently or like recently hired due to a firing, or I don't know if the lacrosse coaching carousel is as insane as the NHL one, but I'll make sure to do my homework. All right, moving on. Game last night, the Rangers, like I said, losing in overtime to the Florida Panthers. Andre, let's start with you, man. What did you see in that game? Blake Wheeler making his return. That was interesting. But what did you see in that game last night?
I mean, with the way the Panthers have been playing, especially like to close these games, there's never really reason to panic for them.
Yeah.
They're dominating the shot attempts. The power play's on fire. I had the numbers last night, and I just forgot them this morning because I really don't want to think about how good it's been. But they scored twice in the power play in Game 3. They scored twice on the power play yesterday, and their first goal of the game came a few seconds after a power play. So that's essentially 5 goals with the man advantage in 2 games. So this trip from Florida taught the Rangers anything. It's one, you need to stay out of the box because their ability to get pucks in the net and get bodies to the net is creating these goals, and it's happening at a much higher rate with the man advantage. You give Igor a clean look, he's probably going to save it. So that needs to change ASAP. 2, you're not going to win in overtime forever. I think it was nice going 4-0, but you can't keep expecting to earn an extra 20 minutes and then having the right goal at the right time. Eventually, you're going to get burnt by it. So congrats on the losers point last night, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. Both of those things can be fixed very easily, and that's by skating better. It should start with the big boys who, again, had flashes yesterday, but still can't put it together, still can't score the big goals. I guess just really get on the board, except for Adam Fox had himself a good game, finally. So that's, I guess, one box that gets checked. But Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, still just not being good enough, honestly. And I mean, it's a best of 3 now moving forward. If you're, at least from the Rangers perspective, you win one more, or you win one of these next 2, you guarantee one more home game. You guarantee that at the very least your season comes down to a Game 7 in the world's most famous arena. If you're the Panthers, you've been better on the road all postseason. You win Game 5 in the Garden, you have a chance to close it at home, get back to the Stanley Cup. So, I mean, both teams have to like the position that they're in. It's just about, in these uber tight games at this point, 3 straight overtimes, it's all about who stays the most disciplined and who stays in their head the right way to make the right play at the right time.
So before I go to you, John. My question for you, Andre, like I'm just looking at the stat sheet right now, and you have Reinhardt who has 8 goals, 12 points. You have Barkov who has 6 goals, 17 points. You have Rahegi who has 9 goals, 17 points. Makachuk 5 goals, 19 points. You go over to the Rangers, and I mean Panarin 4 goals, 14 points, a pretty quiet 14 points. I feel like Panarin hasn't really had a Panarin like game in a while now. Lafreniere 7 goals, 13 points. Trocheck 8 goals, 19 points. Zibanejad 3 goals, 14 points. It just feels like while the point totals seem to be somewhat similar, the Panthers are just consistently getting goals from their big guys. Do you feel like this has all been like you got 2 wins in the series, tied 2-2, going into last night's game 2-1. Do you feel like this has pretty much just been Shesterkin doing his thing? Or do you feel like the rest of the team has been playing up to their potential? Because it just feels like the big guys for the Rangers, specifically Panarin and Zibanejad, have just been kind of non-existent. But, impacting a game isn't always done with points. But do you feel like it's been more Shesterkin keeping the Rangers tied 2-2 rather than the rest of the team?
It's hard not to. And I'd say the depth pieces, more than anything, like the bottom 6 forwards are playing their part for sure. Lafreniere and Trocheck have been phenomenal. It just doesn't feel like, obviously, again, Zibanejad's against Barkov. That's a tough draw. So sometimes you're just not the better player, and that happens. But it feels like, particularly for Panarin, he had 2 assists yesterday. Yeah, it doesn't feel like he's dangerous or he's arguably the best skater on the ice at any point, especially with the puck on a stick. He feels indecisive, like he's not trying to shoot as much. Just doesn't feel like the Panarin we saw for most of the season, even the Panarin we saw for half of the Carolina series. So that's really interesting to me. And then obviously the defensemen are getting bombarded, so that's not helping. But that's what Florida does on that forecheck. So
yeah,
credit to them. They're a great team. They're phenomenal at putting pressure on you, playing physical, and all that stuff. And I think for the most part, we've held our ground, weathered the storm. But at some point, you need to actually win a game, and not in overtime. But I'm talking about like 60 minutes, play better for the entirety of it. Because even if you get through the series without doing that, it's going to be really hard to get through Dallas or Edmonton without doing that at some point. Like, you play with fire too many times, you're going to get burnt. Well,
if there's a team that can survive a series with their goaltender winning every game, it can be it's the Rangers. Still not a recipe that you want to mess with the Florida Panthers heading into game 5 tomorrow. John, what about you, man? What did you see in that game last night?
So a couple of key points here, and something you guys just touched on, and I'll pick that up. I do believe the Rangers are a team that can survive not playing their best hockey. And I think I believe that more about the Rangers than any team left in the playoffs, because honestly, we saw this in game 1, and now we saw this last night. The Rangers have opportunities to win these games when they're really on paper getting severely outplayed. I mean, last night, you look at the stat sheet, like Florida had 40 shots on goal. The Rangers had just over half of that. I believe about 21, I want to say. But 23, sorry. So the Rangers got severely outshot last night. And you can even argue they stole game 3 from the Panthers. So I think the Rangers have gotten away with not playing their best hockey. Part of this is Igor, sure. But just all around, the Rangers are a good enough team to not be at their best 100% of the time. And I also think last night confirmed to me this is going to be a 7-game series. I think Mark and I definitely felt that way before yesterday's game. I'm not really sure where Andre was with that, especially as a Rangers fan. But I felt like this would be a 7-game series anyway. I agree with Mark in that Florida, I think, was the team more likely to bounce back than Edmonton, in my opinion. I think a big thing that happened for the Rangers that they finally lost an overtime game. So Andre mentioned this a couple days ago that the Rangers were undefeated this postseason in overtime. I was watching the game live, talking to a friend of mine, and this friend of mine, low key, really hates the Rangers. So I'm a bigger Devils fan than me. But we were talking together, and I'm like, he's like, Rangers, maybe the Rangers will finally lose an overtime game for once. And I'm like, the Rangers are 4-0 this year in the overtime in the playoffs this postseason. He had a pretty clever response to that. He's like, the law of averages got to catch up to the Rangers eventually. And sure enough, a few minutes into overtime, it happened. I agree with you guys in that last night maybe taught us that the Rangers can't rely on toughening it out every single game in this series. They've gotten away with some good overtime wins, but I think Florida showed they can punch right back. And I think we knew this anyway, but now they've really took action on that statement. And I do agree that the Rangers need to win a game convincingly just to build themselves back up and not put so much pressure on themselves, you know? And there's one guy I'm going to look to going forward. Well, next game specifically, that's Goodrow. I did not feel like he had a good game last night for the Rangers. Only one shot on goal, no points. I think he even took a penalty at some point in last night's game. So he was a big part of the game 2 and 3 wins for the Rangers. And I'm going to be interested to see if this pattern continues where the Rangers need Goodrow to be a center part of this action to come out on top of these games. Maybe I'm making too much of a connection there, but it's just something I noticed from the stat sheet last night.
So a couple things. Number one, I don't disagree with you. He did get a penalty last night, but listen, man, this series is not going to ride or die on Goodrow. Like as much as he's
true.
been like factor, 6 goals so far this playoffs, I don't think he was somebody that you would expect. Like if the Rangers go to the Cup final, he might have double-digit goals, which isn't something that you would necessarily write down on your proverbial bingo card heading into the playoffs. But this is about the big guys, right? The one thing that I'm really interested in watching moving forward, and it doesn't mean that the Rangers are going to lose. I still think the Rangers will win this series. I think you're right. John is probably going 7 games. I don't see the Rangers winning 2 in a row. I think that it will almost certainly go 7 games. But the one thing that I'm really interested in watching is, listen, it is not, and I mean, Andre, you know this, man. We've talked about this the whole postseason, especially during the Carolina series. It is not strange for the Rangers to be outshot. That's not a weird thing. It happened all year long. It happens often. They were outshot 40-23 last night. Now, while it's not weird for them to be outshot, that's a pretty big margin. The other side of it, and I think, Andre, you touched on this, block shots were 28-8. So it's in favor of the Rangers. The Rangers blocked 28 shots and the Panthers blocked 8. So technically the shot margin was 68-31 if you're counting all the block shots. That is crazy. So that is something that I'm really interested in kind of seeing moving forward. If there any way, if the Rangers can't produce more shot attempts, can they take away the shot attempts from the Panthers? That's going to be really interesting to watch moving forward. I don't know how much of an impact it'll have. I mean, like we said, like the Rangers, they rely on quality of chances more than quantity. That's just how they play. But we'll see if that means anything moving forward. All right. Let's move on. Big game tonight. Like I said to start off the show, if the Panthers went down 3-1 and if the Oilers go down 3-1, if that was the scenario heading into Thursday morning, I would have been way more concerned about the Oilers than I would have been about the Panthers. And the Panthers got the job done last night, tied up the series. Now for the Oilers. The Oilers home, they are minus one. Excuse me. Minus 135 at home. The Dallas Stars up 2-1 in the series, plus 114 at or on the road. The over is 6 at plus 102. The under is minus 122. Plus 1.5 for the Stars is minus 230. Minus 1.5 for the Oilers is plus 190. Real quick before we get into the game, because I was not on the show yesterday, just to quickly touch on that game Monday night. The Oilers, like, I do think there is something to be said about, like, that barn on Monday night was insane. And the vibes outside of the rink, all across the city, like, Edmonton was on fire on Monday night, and they started the game like it. They completely dominated the Dallas Stars through 20 minutes. Was an absolutely brilliant, perfect first period. The Stars looked lost. They looked confused. They looked overwhelmed. At the beginning of the second period, and I know Dallas does not take a lot of penalties. John, you've talked about this. They're the least penalized team in the playoffs. I believe they're the second least penalized team in the regular season, but they took a penalty to begin that second period, and that was the perfect opportunity for the Oilers to really put their foot down on that game. And on a team where we talked about this all playoffs long, starting mostly in the series against Vancouver, and it's kind of segued into this series now against Dallas. The Oilers have no depth scoring. They just don't. And when they do get depth scoring, their big boys don't score. And so when that happens, your power play becomes your depth. And we know that the Oilers have the best power play in the game, and they have for the last 2 years. Dallas killed off that penalty in the beginning of the second period and then just completely controlled the game. 3 goals in less than 5 minutes. Jason Robertson gets his hat trick, scoring his 3rd goal of the game in the 3rd period. Now, it didn't feel like the Oilers outshot the Stars, it didn't feel like the Oilers dominated Dallas in the 3rd period, but the shot total would tell you otherwise. I'm just going to pull it up here so I get this right. I know Dallas only got 3 shots on goal in that 3rd period. Edmonton, 13-3 outshoots Dallas in the 3rd period on Monday. And what was the game-winning goal, John? It was that, genius move by Robertson, maybe, but that was Skinner, man. Shoots the puck from behind the goal line, hits off the skate, then hits off his booty and goes right into the net. That is a goal. If that happens in the second period and it's the first goal of the game, fine. But when that's the game-winning goal, man, and this is what concerns me about the Oilers. We've talked about this. When you're not getting the depth, I mean, that goal can never go in, ever. But when you're not getting the depth, that goal cannot go in the net. And what's concerning me even more about the Oilers is in the second period on Monday, 16 and a half minutes between shots. Now, they ended up getting 7 shots in the second period, but that was somewhat flattering. 16 and a half minutes between shots in the first, in game 2, spanned across 2 different situations. They had almost 25 minutes without a shot on goal in the second game. It was like 11 and a half minutes at one time and 13 minutes or something another time. And then on Monday, they go 16 and a half minutes without a shot. Like this has to stop happening where you're getting like 10, 15 minutes without a shot on goal. Like that has to stop happening. So I'm really interested in what we're going to see tonight. I'll speak a little more on what I feel about the game tonight, but Andre, let's start with you, man. What do you see in this game tonight? And I don't know, Andre, like I just feel like Monday was this series in a nutshell. Like the Oilers dominate, Ottinger keeps his team alive, and then Dallas just flips the switch. What do you see in this game tonight?
I mean, 3 of these teams have something that the Oilers don't, and that's a goalie that can drag them through dark times.
Yeah.
It's tough because the Oilers have the superstars. The Oilers are creating such dangerous chances. Like they could be winning these games. But, it's hard to score on a guy like Otter. It's hard to score when there's only realistically 6 guys on the roster picking up points. It's hard to keep a deep Dallas lineup off the scoreboard when you have a defenseman out there who is a negative with everybody you put him out there against. I don't want to pick on CC too much, but he has just been absolutely brutal. So
Nurse too, Andre. Like Darnell Nurse right there with him, right? $9.5 million, and he's not really showing up either.
Yeah, he's a -12. He's been even worse than that stat.
Yeah.
I feel like eye test CC's been worse, but I mean, you have 2 anchors in your back 6 and then a goalie who's known to be very streaky, to say the least. I'll leave it at that. Do I think the Oilers can win tonight and tie this series up? Absolutely. But for me, it's going to be the same thing as last game, especially with Dallas at plus odds again. They have the goalie that can make the saves. I trust Ottinger so much more than I trust Skinner. I'm pretty sure we're not going to see Pickard in this game. And that's probably going to be the reason I picked the Stars. They have the depth scoring. They have the better goalie. There's a reason they had more points this season. So with all respect to McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, which, by the way, I'm probably going to pick Hyman. Goal scorer is my best bet. This is a Stars game. I mean, this is a Star series. Ottinger does his job. They're bottom 6 forwards. You could even add that second line in there. They all skate well. They should be scoring 4 goals, and that should be enough to win every single game in the series. So Dallas plus 114 in the over again.
I saw a stat, and I wish I had this exactly right. I saw a stat that said that 67% of the top 2 lines has a combined 2 points. Now, I don't know if it's a combined 2 points or like 2 points each or like what it was, but either way, that is awful. Like either way, like that is really, really difficult. John, what about you, man? What do you see in this game tonight?
I think Dallas has Edmonton by the ropes, if I'm being honest. I think we finally saw the cracks of Skinner, or looking like he's back to his human self. It came at a very inopportune time in Game 3. I'm not saying it'll happen for sure again in Game 4, but I said this before Game 3. I just don't think Skinner can keep up the pace he was on for like three consecutive games before that. Sorry, 4 consecutive games from like Game 6 of the Vancouver series to Game 2 of this series. I just don't think Skinner's that goalie, and I think we all agree with that. That's a concern. What's also concerning me about Edmonton is that we've said before they have to get production from their star players, correct? Like the concerning thing to me, what happened to them in game 3 is that they did get production from their star players and they still lost. McDavid had a goal and an assist. Hyman had a goal. They usually win those games if they get multiple goals from their star players, and they didn't look like they were even close. And I think Mark touched on this before. Like, I think PK and their defense is a big part of that. Dallas's defense has been really impressive this series. Their PK has been mighty impressive this series. I don't believe they've allowed a power play goal yet against Edmonton. Am I right on that?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. But to add, like, the Oilers have only had 5 chances.
Yeah, that's
like,
true
too. Is just so disciplined, man.
It's both. You're right. It's both. Like, they not only have not allowed a goal against probably the best power play left in the playoffs and maybe the whole league, but also, like Mark just said, Dallas is not allowing Edmonton to get that many opportunities to do it. And I think we kind of already knew this about Edmonton going into this series, but it's being confirmed that Edmonton really needs their power play to be flowing to win these games or win more of these games. I think game 1 was just a perfect combo of the star players having a huge night and Skinner playing his best hockey. But I think if both don't happen, Edmonton loses. And we've began to realize that even getting a little production from the star players is not enough. It needs to be at the max against this Stars team. So I'm going to pick the Dallas money line here. And one more thing I want to mention on the Dallas side. We didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday, but Hintz being back in the Stars lineup, I underestimated how big that was. I feel bad not mentioning it earlier, but like a couple days ago. But looking into those numbers, Wyatt Johnson is a player that seems to shine when Hintz is in the lineup because he had to get moved up to the first line, and Mark called Wyatt Johnston getting on the board in game 3. And I think a big part of that happened is that he's kind of back in his natural position now, facing the deeper lines. And Johnston is a player that I think is the Stars ace up their sleeve. You know what I mean? He's not necessarily meant to be a first liner, but he's terrific deep talent for that team. So I think with Hintz back in the lineup, we should expect to see more production from Johnston going forward. I think that's another reason why I'm more confident in Dallas. It seems to be like they have their rhythm back.
Well, and to your point, like, not just Johnston, but like Roope Hintz, him with Robertson, man, like Robertson, he has, and I was talking about quiet points with Panarin earlier. Jason Robertson has 16 points in this playoffs, which may be the quietest 16 points so far. Like, I haven't been overly impressed with him over the course of the playoffs. There's been games where I don't even hear his name being called. Like, he has 6 goals, 10 points. He got a hat trick the other night, right? So going into that game the other night, he had 3 goals, 10 assists for 13 points. And having Roope Hintz just sparked life into him. I also overlooked that, John, and I think it's because Roope Hintz offensively hasn't been the player that we know him to be over the course of this past season and through the 12 games he played in the playoffs. But I underestimated his chemistry with his line mates, and I underestimated his 200-foot game is phenomenal. Like, he is terrific on both sides of the puck, whether it's defensively or on the offensive side of things. And, you know, we talk about the Oilers. We talk about the things that concern us about the Oilers. On the one side of it, I've actually been really impressed, even with Nurse and CC not playing well at all. I've been impressed with how they have handled Dallas defensively. Every game has been within 1 goal. I know game 2 was 3-1. That was the empty net late. And if memory serves correctly, Lundell scored that from like his blue line. And the game last night, 5-3, but that goal was also empty netter, if I'm not mistaken, as well, right? So all these games have been really close, and I do think it's because the defense overall and the defensive play of the forwards for the Oilers has been very good. The thing that I keep harping on with the Oilers is that, yes, we talk about the depth, and we're right about that. But I just couldn't believe reading that this morning, that 16 and a half minutes without a shot on goal. And you have Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Bouchard. Like, that cannot happen. And then in game 2, having almost 25 minutes, that means 16 minutes plus 25 minutes. That's like 2/3 of a hockey game without a shot on goal. Like, that is crazy to me. And so I'm going to be really interested to see that. Also tonight, I'm really interested to see the Oilers, the way that they started that game seemed that they rode the high of the home crowd so hard that by the time the second period started, they had no legs left. And so I'm really interested to see how that balances out. Is there a way that Edmonton can start less aggressively, but better long-term in the hockey game? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's even possible. It feels like Edmonton is either dominating or they disappear. So I'm really curious to see how that kind of plays out. So all that being said, I've said this at the beginning of the series, and I'm going to keep saying it. I am betting Dallas to win, and if I lose, I lose. I'm betting Dallas to win every night, and if it loses, then it loses. But if you're giving me Dallas plus 114, which I do think is right, like, I don't think that Dallas should necessarily be favored in this game. But I'll be taking Dallas on the money line as well. The over is really tempting. I think, Andre, you called the over, right? The over is really tempting. I'm worried that we got the over game that we've been kind of waiting for, and it might not come again. I don't know. We'll see. But I like Dallas to win tonight. I like the over. I'm a little bit tentative on it. The last point that I will make is the Dallas Stars, like, we talk about their depth, and the conversation's getting a little bit tired because I just keep bringing it up like every 5 minutes. But the truth is, in games 1 and 2, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, and Mason Marchment were the goal scorers. Lundell scored the empty net late, but in the first 2 games, it was the old Grizzle vets who scored. And on Monday, it was their youth that scored. And so I'm really interested to see how this blend of the depth works for Dallas moving forward. All right, moving on to our best bets, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off every sports card in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store. First Round Collectibles, that's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Andre, I feel like you already got this one locked and loaded, man. What's your best bet in the game tonight?
Yeah, as much as I want to go Stars money line again, I can see the Oilers tying up this series. I don't think, even though Stars are a team, not really sure I can see either of these conference finals just being a runaway series. So I'm gonna pivot to the most consistent bet in hockey these days. That is Zach Hyman, anytime goal scorer. The guy has 13 goals in 15 playoff games this year.
Mm-hmm.
Scored in 4 of the last 5. Obviously, his regular season was phenomenal. He had 54, which led the team. I think it was 3rd in the NHL when it was all said and done. He makes his home right outside the blue crease. He's just breathing on the goalie all game, and when he gets his shot, he cashes it in. So Zach Hyman, anytime goal scorer, plus 100. Liked it last game. It hit, and I'm hammering it this game.
John, what about you, bro? Oh, real quick, to your point, the playoff record for goals, I think we actually talked about this a couple of days ago. The playoff record for goals in a postseason through this amount, is 19 goals. And so for Zach Hyman, if they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, 54 goals, 13 now, like you said, Andre, 67 goals. I think because the team is struggling in other areas, this continues to get overlooked, that this guy is a machine. And I saw a video this morning of Zach Hyman's playoff goal highlights, and it was this guy on his knees playing mini stick in front of a mini stick net and just shooting a puck into a mini stick net right in front of the net. It was really funny. But that's not just cleaning up the scraps. He anticipates what his teammates are going to do, and he knows where the puck's going, and they're not always trying to score when they shoot it on net. They're trying to get a rebound. They're trying to get the deflection. So yeah, absolutely. Big props to Zach Hyman. Wow. John, what about you, bro? What do you see tonight?
Hyman's so hot right now. He's got goals bouncing off his chest. I mean that quite literally. So this game, there's one or two scoring props I kind of like in this game, but to be honest, I think I'm just gonna keep this simple. I like the Dallas money line tonight, plus 114. I really do truly believe they have Edmonton on the ropes. Skinner's looking human. The Stars being somewhat productive hasn't been enough now for Edmonton, and Hintz is back for Dallas, which I think is going to really show off their depth more than it already was in the first two games for Dallas. I like the money line, and I think they're going to keep leaning on Edmonton here.
So this might be recency bias. It actually probably is recency bias, but with the production or the addition rather of Rompe hits, Jason Robertson in this series against the Vegas Golden Knights, he had 7-game series. He had 3 shots twice, 4 shots twice, 2 shots once, and then 1 shot. In the series against the Avalanche, he had 3 shots once, 4 shots once, 1 shot twice, and 0 shots twice. In this series, he has 2 shots in the first game, 1 shot in the second game. With Rompe Hintz back, he had 4 shots the other night and 3 shots went in. He talked about it after the game. He basically said, my confidence has been kind of shot. And after that first shot went in, I just had the confidence. And he made the point that if he didn't score before that third goal, he probably wouldn't have shot that puck from behind the goal line. Just basically saying, I had the confidence, so I figured I would just kind of throw it on net. I expect that to bleed into this game tonight. Rompe Hintz is again back. Robertson had a terrific breakout game. Not breakout game, but as far as this playoffs goes, a breakout game. Over 2.5. That's all. 2.5 shots for Jason Robertson is plus 120, which kind of surprises me. So, yes, the consistency in the shot totals hasn't really been there, but the goal scoring that we saw the other night, I really think that this unlocks something with Jason Robertson. We talked about hints coming back to the lineup. I think this is huge. So give me Jason Robertson over 2.5 shots. That's it at plus 120. And the fact is, too, he's not a playmaker. He's not some crazy like Connor McDavid going up and down the ice. He's a pure shooter. And so I expect him to put some shots on net. So Jason Robertson over 2.5 at plus 120.
Well said, fellas. You're going to like the odds for this parlay. But first, we got to go over the bets again. Dallas Stars, money line, plus 114, courtesy of John. Zach Hyman, anytime goal scorer, plus 100 from yours truly. And last, certainly not least, Jason Robertson, over 2.5 shots on goal at plus 120. Parlay together, plus 950. I think we've heard that one before.
Ooh.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. The problem with these parlays, though, gentlemen, with the Western Conference is we keep tying them to Dallas wins. So but you know what? You don't get the reward without the risk, gents. You know what I mean? All right. Yep. Excellent stuff as always. Everybody watching, whether you're watching now or throughout the day, I know there's a bunch of you who watch this later on throughout the day. We appreciate you. Whether you're watching live or later, we appreciate you. First Round Collectibles, we appreciate you. Head over there, use promo code SportsAddict for 10% off. John and Andre, I appreciate you. Every time we cover this series, shameless plug, my Game 4 preview on Total Apex Sports coming out later. Have a wonderful day. And we'll see you tomorrow.